Okay, so now let's start with something fun. We're going to listen to some music first, and I want you all to pay attention. They're just little snippets of different songs, and I want you to think about what do these songs have in common? Okay, what do all the songs have in common? Relationship. Boy, Jeff got it first time. Boom. These were all about broken relationships. Yes. Yeah.
The power of connection within human beings.
The power of connection within human beings. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
They all mention the mind and the head. They're all head underwater and trapped in their mind.
I hadn't even thought about that, but they do. It connects with the body and the mind. We all talk about
Without choosing.
Yeah.
It's about me and my feelings.
It's about it goes back to how we're feeling and how we're doing. Yes.
They all attributed their feeling to the other person causing the feeling that they had.
Yes. It's like the way another person relates with us impacts how we're doing. Yes, exactly. So that's what we're talking about. The way God has designed us is that dependent on how well our relationships are doing, it makes a difference in how well we're doing. If our relationships are going great, we are on top of the world and we can go out and handle things, and even if life is hard, it's like, it's all right. I got so-and-so loving me. And if we're having a rough time in our relationships, then life sucks. We're having a hard time. And there's 4 different relational patterns that we're going to talk about tonight. There's actually 5 main ones when researchers studied, and we're going to talk about 4 of them. The first one is the secure relationship, and if you have a secure relational pattern going on, you're in a calming presence. It's something that just stabilizes you and keeps you calm. If you're in a dismissive attachment pattern, then you're in a relationship where you're always being minimized and dismissed. And that does not feel good. The next pattern we're going to look at is the anxious one, and some researchers call it the distracted attachment pattern. And in this pattern, you always have high anxiety going on. A lot of just nervousness. And that's not a settling, secure place that you want to live. And the next one we're going to look at is called the disorganized. And people who live within the disorganized attachment pattern, they live with a lot of confusion and a lot of distress. And they're just not all, it's like, well, I don't know if I should approach this person. Well, I don't know if I should, maybe I shouldn't. Well, I got to go towards them, but no, I can't. That's not safe. And there's just a lot of internal distress for people who live in the disorganized attachment pattern. We all might have more than one attachment pattern that we live out of, but we usually have a tendency, like one of them is stronger than the rest. But for myself, I grew up with a very, very dismissive attachment pattern, but I still can see traces of the anxious attachment pattern that kicks in at times depending on certain situations or certain groups of people that come in to my life. There is a long-term historical debate among the people who are in the know as to whether we are formed by nature or nurture. And we're finding more and more that it is a real strong combination. And I picture it a lot like a lump of clay. And the quality of the clay is going to make a difference in how the pottery piece turns out. But that lump of clay is also going to be formed by the hands that go around it and certain interactions of the world that form the clay. So all of us in fact, we won't go into it, but I've been studying the more recent research coming out on epigenetics. And our predispositions are set 3 generations back. And we're also finding that our genetics can be shifted and changed based in current interactions as well. There can be differences made in our DNA. So the real powerful piece, though, that we get to have more of a say-so over is the kind of relationships that we put ourselves into, that we create around us, and we get to have an impact and help to, there's different quotes about you become like your friends. Well, there's a lot of truth in that, and literally the people around us, the way they relate, is going to help to change the wiring in our brain. And we will become different people depending on the people that we're with. So the more that we are able to learn about our own lives and see, oh wow, I got pushed into an environment that I grew up in a dismissive attachment pattern, but that's not a secure thing, and I want to grow, then I can help my whole neurological wiring by choosing to be in relationships with people who are secure. And then we'll also look at some other techniques and exercises that can help each category of attachment pattern to go more and more towards a secure attachment. So the more that we grow in our own awareness, we're not going to be driven by our attachment pattern. We're going to grow much more to be in control of our attachment patterns and have something else to offer other people. Also, the more that we understand attachment patterns, we're going to be able to know what's happening in this person that I'm interacting with. What's going on for them, and how can I relate with them in a way that can help them get back to a place of security. And I also am so grateful that the more that I've learned about attachment patterns, something has shifted inside of me, that I'm so much more compassionate to people who are struggling. It's like, oh, that's where they're coming from. They've had interactions that really squashed them, and they're shut down. Or I'm not as impatient with people who are always really anxious, and I'm not wanting to say, would you just chill out? You know, trust the Lord and get a handle on it. It's like, oh, wow. They grew up in an environment that was downloading a lot of anxiety to them. And how can I relate with them in a way that can help them? So understanding our attachment patterns can help all of us to grow hearts that are so much more like Jesus. He's very compassionate. We're now going to look at the different examples of the attachment patterns, and the way I decided to do it is to create a little snapshot of the different individual patterns. And this is where I'm going to call on you all to please participate, and because then you don't have to hear me the whole time, you can hear someone else as well. So we're going to go through the different examples, and the first one is the snapshot of Sally Secure.